Good morning, everybody. I hope it's a good morning. I hope you're having a good morning. I'm having a decent morning. It's been a busy morning, which is great. I woke up this morning and my watch way too late because I already decided what workout I was going to do and everything was like, hey, prioritize rest today. And I was like, yo, tell me sooner because I'm already in the middle of stuff. So I'll do that tomorrow, which is great. But hopefully, if you need to prioritize rest today, you've already gotten a head start on that. It is a Monday. It's Moon's Day. And today there are no perfecting transits. So we have like this neutral thing to work with. Hey, Amber, Angela, and Kristen. Um, but this week has some transits to it and some interesting things going on like a metaphorical scale, behind the scenes timing, and of course in our actual sky that are forming right now. So it's a time to be alive. That's not surprising to anybody anymore. So we can talk about it, and we can also, if you want, we can also just kind of get into the coziness that we can claim for ourselves this week. Yes, stuff is happening. It is a time to be alive. We got to get that on a t-shirt. Speaking of t-shirts, I'm wearing my sorry for what I said when Mercury was in retrograde t-shirt. It is not Mercury retrograde yet, but I'm sorry that I have to tell you that that's next week. So next week we will be focusing on that. But also next week, I have good news. We have one of the best moons I've seen in a really long time. The full moon in Taurus is going to be nice. And I just recommend you decide now that you're going to do something for that full moon in Taurus and that you decide what it's going to be. We can talk about that to give extra time. We'll talk about it next week too. But if you're like, hey, I'd really like to lean in and plan this, I need to claim some of the good stuff for myself. I get it. And I support that. So we can talk about that too, because it's a good one. I'm happy about it. There's some stuff that I showed last week that we can talk again this week if I show it on the chart. Hey, Russ. But if we want to get a head start on the moon for next week, that lovely, lovely exalted full moon in Taurus, we can absolutely do that too to give you more time to plan ahead for what you would like to do during that full moon. As far as lunations go, you have heard me say before, like, don't work with this one. This one could be better. No, guys, this one is good. Probably the best one of the year. And the best one for a while. You know, the next time we get a full moon in Taurus, I don't think Venus is going to be in domicile at the same time. I can check that. But definitely Jupiter is not going to be exalted at the same time. And we have benefic enclosure, which is basically Jupiter and Venus saying, hey, moon, we got you on both sides. No one's going to touch you, which is great. Love to see that. More of that, please. So this is really, really cool. It's almost, I think I would say like an ideal moon. There are only some very nitpicky things that I would add. Hey, Shauna, to make it like the perfect one. And if it were the perfect one, I would hands down be making like a talisman out of it. In fact, if you want, I can show you real time how I could analyze this and tell you like talisman, no talisman for this full moon coming up next week, which is good for manifesting and magical work regardless. But I can show you how we like dig into the real nitty gritty details and decide if it's going to be a moon for talisman work, which it might be. So that's really fun. It's always nice when you have something that's like, oh, I could make a talisman out of that, because that also means, yes, it also means that it's good. It's really ideal conditions. And we love to see it. We need more of that. So good morning, Christy. So I'm going to leave that up to you guys. Do you want to chat some cozy conversation? It is the week of Halloween, of El Dia de los Muertos, all sorts of stuff. And if you want to talk about that kind of stuff, we absolutely can. Lots of folk magic opportunity there. But we can also talk about the moon next week, which is going to be super ideal and give you guys a bit of a head start on it so that you have enough time to plan and prep, which is kind of my style typically. So whatever you want, I'm here for. I've got the tools. Does anybody remember the Olsen twins from like the 90s when they had their detective show? We've got the know-how, we've got the knack. We've got that right now. So we can do that. Kathy votes for Moon Talk. I love it. Cool. And if nobody else wants to weigh in on it because you agree, fantastic. We will do that. That sounds fun. So I will start pulling up the chart. Let me make sure my screen is ready. Cool. So Pulling up Luna. Luna. Here she is. Okay, so we are looking at, yeah, Angela, I bet you would. It's so fun when people who have had readings with me come into the chat and I remember their charts and I'm just like, yeah, you should like this one. But yes, Amber Ray, good morning. So I'm going to show you just really quickly because I was already on today here. We find this full moon pretty easily in Luna by going to cycles. Then you scroll down to the most recent new moon. In this case, it would have been October 21st. That was our Libra new moon. And then all you have to do is go over here to the lunar cycle situation, go down to the full moon that's on November 5th. And now we have the chart of that full moon. The full moon is here in Taurus. So that is what we're working with. Now, why do I like this full moon so much? The moon is exalted in Taurus. So you may have heard conditions for different planets, the moon included, being really good or really not good and somewhere in between. Good conditions that you want to hear for a planet are domicile and exaltation. The jury has been out for several thousand years as to which one is the best of those two, but there is some evidence to say that maybe the Babylonians thought that, okay, maybe the Babylonians thought the exaltation was like the extra good. And really what you can think for yourself in this situation is, do I prefer to be at home where all my stuff is around me and I'm comfortable? Or do I prefer to be in a space where everybody's glad to see me and they support me? So do you like having all the stuff you need to support you around you? Or do you like having the people and the support of the community and all of those things where you get lifted up into a position of exaltation? And so that's one thing you can do, since we don't have anything that says for sure which one's best. This is the situation. Now, the moon rules Cancer and is exalted in Taurus. As you can see here, she is in our little bull right there. She is in Taurus and she is opposite the sun to the exact degree, 13 degrees and 22 minutes. And so this means it's a full moon because the moon is receiving all of the light from the sun. So we get to see all of her full face that's facing the earth. We can see it. I posted on my stories this morning on Instagram a fun little experiment that kind of emulates the phases of the moon that you can do with like a little ping pong ball. And it's just really fun to conceptualize that in your head. So this is our full moon in Taurus where she's exalted. Already a good thing. Taking a pause here for a second so I can read Shauna's question. Were ancient astrologers ever focused on the dead? This time of year stirs my curiosity around how ancient cultures celebrated those who have passed on. So I do know this a little bit because I've been studying a lot about Mesopotamian religions and onward. It started out that the perception of the realm of the dead was sort of just null. And I hate saying that because I myself, in the worldview I am so ingrained in, believe so much in an afterlife, and they did too, but I believe in a purposeful afterlife. Like I feel like I'm still going to have stuff to do or the desire to do things. They had this idea that it was sort of like just a mirror image of what we're in now, and you don't really have anything to do anymore. They also had this idea, which didn't last very long because of, wealthy people. But they had the idea that everybody's equal after death. So you could have been a king in life, but you're going to end up down in whatever the name they had for it was. I don't remember the one that they had in Mesopotamia originally, but this is the kind of thing that they would have called Gehenna in the Bible. Gehenna is not hell. It was actually Gehenna itself, the suffering version of hell, was a pit that had at one time been used for child sacrifices, which they thought was a very big no-no. Good call. And then eventually was used as a garbage pit. And so they kind of incinerated things there. They would have their fires there. And so the fires of hell is garbage. It's literally a dumpster fire. So sorry. So that's where they kind of got that analogy from. And Gehenna was the valley where they dumped all that stuff. So that was their analogy. But even then, Sheol, Sheol, was their afterlife where they expected everybody ended up for the longest time. And everybody was equal there. It was just where you went after. So the idea of quality of life after life came along a lot later and developed as we recognized that there was hierarchy in our civilizations on earth. And so what was the hierarchy going to be like in the afterlife? And you do see some of that in documents like the New Testament and other religions, they get into like, well, who am I? What's my identity? What's my place? What's my purpose after this? Sheol, Sheol is the spelling. Amber, you're on it though. Thank you. Actually, that's AJ, right? Yeah, AJ, you're crushing it. Thank you. So Shauna, I hope that helps. When you get into Greek stuff, like the Hellenistic era, even in the Egyptian era, like if you go from Babylon, everything's kind of neutral afterlife. But if you go into the Egyptian era, where stuff developed astrologically, we can follow that along. Then you get into and Shauna, you went with us to Egypt, so you saw their sort of process after death, where you're sort of weighed against a feather with Ma'at's scale. And so if you did well and you did good deeds, you get to continue on into a good afterlife. And that's where you get to take all of your riches and things with you. If you didn't, suffering, karmic kind of stuff, I guess. Moving into Greek sort of situations where we go into, instead of Sheol and this neutral underworld, afterworld, you get what they considered. Honestly, they considered Hades to be more of an afterworld too, but it was again like this more neutral space. They also had Elysium where really good people went. So then they started getting hierarchy, right? We get this heaven versus Hades kind of situation, Elysium versus Hades kind of situation. And that then continued as well. So it just really depends on where in the world these were developing, which culture and which era of history you're looking at. But back in the Fertile Crescent, when civilization was developing to the earliest of our ability to know because of their recorded history, that's what we're working with. It was very much like you live and then afterwards you exist. And it was in this, I can't remember the exact word that it was used in, would have been Sumerian or Akkadian language, one of those. It sort of just meant under city. So it was the city of the dead that they kind of lived in. And that was their situation. That's what they believed. And so they also had this, there was a concept of how they got to the afterlife, where, certain ceremonies helped them get there. They did have beliefs in ghosts at the time. So like if you got lost on your way, you sort of just continued dwelling in the earthly plane and you might pick on people. It's kind of, yeah, it's a lot like a necropolis in that situation, Russ. Exactly. But again, if I could run and grab my books, I'd have to figure out. I have like 3 books on Mesopotamian religion right now that I'm reading. I'm getting my wires crossed. But that's kind of where it's at. So they believed in ghosts and they believed, your ultimate goal is to get to this after place. And then you would exist there. And then eventually when we developed societies with kings and riches, people didn't want to not have that in the afterlife. So they were like, well, obviously, in the afterlife, I'm also, because I did so much good stuff here. It was very, in my opinion, existential, right? It was like, you can do as much as you want here. And then afterwards, it's all going to be kind of equalized anyway. And then you get the people that are like, well, why push to do so much here then? So they created purpose and meaning in their own ways in that. And of course, especially with Mesopotamian stuff, it's so hard to know because we have such an incomplete understanding. And with history in general, unless you were there and you were in that context and nuance of the culture, it's hard to tell what they were thinking and how they felt about it. We only have writings, and those writings were not always written for the purpose of posterity, but a lot of what we have in religious connotations from Babylon are from, like tax documents and things. But because their religion was so ingrained in their way of life, they had an invocation to a deity at the beginning of the tax document. And so we get that. And so we're like, well, they must have been super religious across the board. Or they had an oath, just like the Hippocratic oath that doctors have. Does that mean that every doctor is super religious, especially in the Greco-Roman kind of pantheon? Not necessarily, right? But centuries down the line, someone may look back on, wow, their doctors trained and swore a Hippocratic oath. They must have all been priests to such and such, right? And that's not the case in context, but it's what our remnants would lead people to believe. So this is where channeled history becomes really helpful because you get to go between the lines of what we have remaining. So I hope that was a satisfactory response, Shauna. Let me know if there's anything I can do with the knowledge that I have to elaborate on that. It seems like ancient religions and astrology were more interconnected. Yes. So here's what I love. Astrology introduced me to ancient religions because so much of ancient faith and religion and belief is tied to their understanding that the planets were physical representation of deities. So they believed originally, here, I'm going to bring back all my planets here. I think I have these memorized enough. Originally, we have Jupiter, who was Marduk. That was their Jupiterian god. That's what they called Jupiter. And there's a myth about Marduk in the Babylonian and ancient Mesopotamian texts. You can hear about his story, about those. Then you have Saturn, who was Ninurta, I believe. And then you have, oh gosh, who was Mars? I can't remember it. I'm writing a book where their names are like this, but they have two names. They each get two names. So I know Mars's name that I gave them in the book. And then I have to remember Nergal. Mars was Nergal. And then I think, is it Anu was Mercury? It was something with an A. Hang on, actually. Because fun fact, Nebuchadnezzar was actually, his patron deity was Mercury, because Anu, or however they were, the form of Mercury's name is in his name. It was Nabu. Nebuchadnezzar was under Nabu, who was Mercury. Sorry, this is new studies for me, and I haven't said it out loud much, so it's still getting there for me. Venus, of course, was Inanna, or not Ereshkigal, but she had Inanna and another deity name. It's one of the more common ones too. I can't believe I'm forgetting this. And then the sun was Shamash. The moon was Sin, also sometimes called Suin. And sin did not mean sin at the time. It wasn't like bad things. The moon was also male originally. The sun started out female and then became male over time. Mercury, as always, adjusted to whoever Mercury was with. Yeah. So Shamash started out as a female deity and then eventually evolved into more of a masculine deity. So in my mind, that's trans, but it's okay. And then Sin, the moon god, is actually the namesake for the mountain Sinai. Sinai was the mountain of Sin. But Sin, the deity, not sin, the bad stuff or the mistakes or whatever you want to call it. Sin actually didn't mean all of that to begin with either, but that's a separate rant. Yeah. So yeah, that's what they were to the Babylonians. And so the Babylonians, there's this document we have called the Mul Apen. And the Mul Apen tracks the movement of the stars. And with that, their astrologers were called examiners because they were examining what was going on in the sky, calculating all of it, right? This is fascinating stuff that I'm really enjoying, and it's all going into this book. So I'm really glad that you guys are talking about it now too. So the examiners would look at the sky, track the movements. They could anticipate some of the movements. They couldn't anticipate all of them. It took us a while to be able to predict, say, eclipses and things, but other things they were like, I can see this movement and I can predict the next thing, like we do now with our more detailed math that we have access to. Yeah. And so with that, they would say, here's the omen, and Venus, who is Inanna, I really wish I could remember her other name because I feel like it's a little bit more accurate to her. But anyway, if Venus does something like, let's say, goes retrograde, then you get the myth of Inanna going into the underworld to see Ereshkigal. That is a mythological interpretation of Venus's retrograde. Flash forward a couple centuries, millennia, and you get Hermes stealing Apollo's cows and putting on the shoes backwards to walk away. So it appears like he's walking backwards. That is Mercury retrograde. Mercury moving away from the sun in a backwards motion, right? So yes, there is a connection with astrology and with mythology and religions and all of those things, even down to the various pantheons, which have some kind of kingly or savior, which is usually Marduk-esque, a Jupiterian kind of entity who dies and comes back after 3 days. That is not just Christianity. That is multiple. Like I said, I think I said this last week too. There's one in the Egyptian pantheon, and it does happen in multiple. I think around the around the solstice in December, I'm going to do sort of either a rant or some kind of a write-up on this. So you'll be able to get that. Stay tuned for how I'm going to share it. But I think that's a good idea to do, to be able to do some comparative theological study on that. But it happens. So there seems to be this truth that we track throughout what the sky is up to, because I know that they have a lot of these were Jupiterian deities, but it is the sun on the solstice. This is why they were all born on December 25th, around the solstice of winter in the northern hemisphere. They all die and come back after 3 days because the sun dies and comes back after 3 days, meaning the sun has its least amount of daylight. So this is the point of the year where the sun is considered dead. And then after 3 days, it starts increasing in daylight again. So it resurrects, right? And that's really cool. So those are some ways that we could connect it just off the top of my head. There are more ways, but I would want to make sure I actually do a little bit more research to get it down in a more understandable way. It's fun stuff. It's fascinating stuff. It's why I think comparative theology is one of my favorite branches of just exploring the world, because there is this cool Creaster. Yes. There is this really cool connection between everything. There's a thread. I was talking about this with my theology mentor last week, and just this one understood truth that everybody got the picture for. Wherever you developed, you got the picture that there are these concepts that seem true or seem to repeat or seem to find their way into every civilization, wherever in the world, whatever time. And a lot of them trace back to how we interpret the movement of the planets and the stars. And I just love that. So that is my my going off on that question, which I really loved and appreciate. Weren't the Magi following the stars? The Magi, yes, the Magi were astrologers. They were astrologers. It's even in the footnotes of the Oxford Annotated Bible. So the Magi were astrologers, and they were following stars, but this is where we get into metaphysical timing. They weren't just following stars. They were tracking things potentially for decades before. So when they said the star led us here, they weren't saying there's a big old star in the sky right now. That's not what they were talking about. What they were talking about, if they were the astrologers that we know them to be, and if they were following the school of thought that we have evidence of, then what they were doing was following the cycles of the stars and the areas of the earth that are attributed to these stars. So these are called klimas, Klima. And basically they're saying the earth has places in it. And if we break it down into strips from north to south, we can say that this planet covers this klima, or like section of longitude, latitude, and then this planet, and then this planet, and then this planet, and then this planet. And then they also would track how some major cities were affected by certain planets. So you would get certain cities that were governed more by a sign or a planet. And then they would look at maybe the birth of the king of that place and say, well, how is his chart affected by something? Because if his chart's affected by it and he represents the nation, then the nation's going to be affected by it. And therefore, this celestial event affects the king, affects the nation, so on and so forth. So they would say this celestial event, it's not like sending a beam down over something. It's actually saying this affects this, affects this, affects this. I'm going to go to this place because I can tell that that affects that. And that's how they found them. And what they would have been tracking likely is the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. Saturn and Jupiter conjoin every 20 years in the same element over a period of 200 years, and then they switch. And when they switch, it is considered the changing of a dynasty. And in this one in particular, I believe they were conjoining in Sagittarius, and there was Saturn, I think, was in the 9th house, which indicated a prophet who was going to be killed for his beliefs. And so they tracked that, and then they used other metaphorical timing techniques. So they took the beginning of the year, it's the Aries ingress chart from the springtime, where that conjunction would take place. They took the spring ingress chart for that, the Aries ingress chart for that, and they said, okay, of all the times in these next 200 years that Saturn and Jupiter are going to conjoin, which one's it going to be? And they could use the chart to map that out. And then they would go to the Aries ingress of the year of the conjunction within that 200 years that they decided it would be. And they said, okay, within this, which month is most likely to pop off where this kid would be born. And then they found that and they said, okay, given that, what are the transits doing that day? Like what else is going on around that time that might lend its testimony to this? Which planets are the strongest, which means of the planets that rule the different cities and things, where might this happen? And that's how they did it. I actually studied this and it's fascinating to me. It is, if you were interested, I think there's a whole thing, not only for the birth of Christ, but also Muhammad and the flood, the Great Flood, which is in Babylonian myth and all the whole, in a lot of myths. It's over in South America as well. It is in Astrology of the World 2. Looks like this, translated by Benjamin Dykes. But what we get from here, it's revolutions in history, time lords, great conjunctions, and ingresses. You get Ptolemy, you get Abu Mashar, Mashallah. Great, amazing stuff. I love this book. So, I mean, as you can tell, I've got like stuff all over the place in here. The highlights are copious, and you can tell where like I ran out of ink because I was highlighting so much. So that's how that works. Yes. Russ says, tangent question, sun, female to male, moon, male to female, prior or linked to the rise of the patriarchy. That is a question we are still wondering about. Because it was really fuzzy when that transition happened. Historians don't have the adequate data to be like, it happened right here. We don't know specifically. Now, astrologically, we can say that there was a certain period when we were still in the age of Taurus, which was a while ago, a period, these ages of astrology last like 24,000 years on their own, right? Actually, sorry. I think they last 2,000 years, but the whole cycle is 24,000 years. So ish, give and take a couple hundred years here or there. So we started out with an age of Aries, and then we started we started out with an age of Taurus. I'm sorry. We started out with the age of Taurus. There was a lot of bull worship, right? You get a lot of emphasis on bulls and that kind of stuff. Cave drawings have bulls everywhere. It's not that they were like, oh, it's the age of Taurus. It's just that was the zeitgeist. That was the sort of spirit that was in them. And you had a lot of more matriarchal societies. Now, this is all theory. I would like more data to support this. I like the theory, but I would like more stuff to make me feel confident in it. Flash forward to a couple thousand years, you get into the age of Aries. Suddenly, masculinity is on the rise. War becomes the way we do things. And all of that progresses. From there, you get into the age of Pisces, which many people associate with a lot of our prophets. Christ is one of them that is often associated with it because, the name is like hot stuff. But also we get in the same kind of era. Buddhism and Muhammad comes around, and there's a lot of like, let's do peaceful stuff. Let's show compassion. Let's love one another. That's the age of Pisces. Okay. Everybody keeps talking about the age of Aquarius when everything's going to be super great. But like the age of Pisces is the age of love each other. It's ruled by Jupiter. So, and it's Jupiter's feminine associated sign of water, Pisces. So this is great, right? This is when we should really take advantage of this. And we are still in the age of Pisces right now for about 200 more years until the age of Aquarius does take over. Now that's a Saturn sign, and it's a diurnal / masculine air sign. So I would rather if we would figure stuff out now and go towards peace now, so that Saturn, when Saturn takes over, can be a little bit more humanitarian and less authoritarian. That's just my personal opinion. But that's what we have so far on that. So is it possible? And if you read another book that I can recommend to you, Russ, a lot of this information is highlighted in Demetra George's Mysteries of the Dark Moon. This also has an audiobook, so you can listen to it if that's your preference, but it is in here. All of the math is explained and some support for it as well. So there's that. So that, yes, we could say that the shift of masculine and feminine could have happened at that time, but the sun and the moon are very often, in more Eastern philosophies, the sun is often female and the moon is often male. In Japanese culture, all of those things. And the idea there was because the moon was so close to us, they gave the moon kingship or lordship over the other planets. And then the sun was second to that. So you'd get the king / queen, right? That's one of the things you can also keep in mind as you're exploring this. Cool. Hi, Danny. Welcome. Hi, Misty. It's great to see you guys. So there's all that. I hope that was helpful. I know it's a lot, right? This is why it helps to get really passionate and hyperfixated on astrology, because you will get passionate and hyperfixated on religion and history and magic and literally everything else. The joke that my mentor in magic made was, you're going to become a Renaissance person because you'll start trying to understand everything so that you can understand astrology better. And he wasn't wrong. So it makes me really great at trivia night, until they start talking about sports, and then I'm useless and I don't care. No shade to anybody who likes sports. I'm really glad you do. Somebody's got to, because the trivia team would be lost without you. But yeah, so that's that tangent, which is an awesome tangent, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys for leading us down that path. I loved it. I had a really good time. I hope you did too. What was the other book you mentioned with Ben Dykes? That was Astrology of the World 2. So there's Astrology of the World 1 and there's Astrology of the World 2. They can stand alone from each other. You don't need to have one for the other. Yeah, go local sports ball team. Same. Astrology of the World 2 is the one that would have the conjunctions and stuff in it. And yeah, that's where a lot of the Aries Ingress stuff comes in. Shauna, I know you're in the student study. We'll be going over that in our review sessions that are coming up. So you'll be hearing a lot about that. And Shauna, you have access to our Aries Ingress document. I cite this book in every time I quote Ptolemy and stuff like that. So I think I cite it in there. You can just copy and paste that too if you want to find it. Cool. Cool. So is that a satisfactory roundup for those questions? Anything else we want to go off on there? What was the general opinion of astrology in Shakespeare's time? Actually, there's a really great book on that too. Hang on. You're asking me fantastic questions. I need to go off camera for a second because it's over in my worldview section. This is astrology. This is fiction. This is mythology, worldview, magic stuff. I'll be right back. Okay. This is a very short book. This was actually originally written as an English literature textbook. It's the Elizabethan World Picture by E.M.W. Tillyard. This will tell you all of the worldview of Shakespeare, which included a lot of astrology. So I recommend that. Yeah. So there you go. That's the book I recommend as well. This is the book actually that before my mentor in astrological magic would let me learn, he said, you have to read this book because we have to change the way you think about how the world works so that you can start understanding how magic fits. So this is a really great book for letting yourself understand how magic works in the real world. Cool? Yeah. So the Ben Dykes book for Shauna, which I already responded to, AJ, is the Astrology of the World 2. Yeah. Here, I'll just put it in the chat. Astrology of the World 2. There you go. Yes. So if that's the most recent question, AJ, I think I'm caught up, right? Yes. Yes, thank you. Awesome. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So do we want to get back into the chart? What the chart? There we go. So the moon. Yeah. that's where I'm at too. Cool. We are caught up. Thank you. Love that. Yes, cool. So the moon. This moon next week is exalted. Whether you call her the moon or you call her Luna or you call him Sin, it's the moon exalted in this sign. And the Babylonians agreed with that too. The Babylonians established that the moon was exalted in Taurus. Theories for why that is are way jury's out. We talked about this in the student study a couple, last month, I believe. And there are a couple, we think this may be what they were thinking, but it's not grounded in anything just yet. So we are still waiting for that source to reveal itself. Best concept they have for the moon is it's sextile to its ruling sign. And that seems to be a pattern for the other planets as well, for their exaltations. So we're just going to go with that. Sounds good to me. I'll take it. But in this case, we have a great exalted moon. She's full of light. She's capable of doing all the stuff. And she is separating from Jupiter, who is in her sign. So, oh, sorry, no, she's applying to Jupiter. See how she's at 13. She'll move towards 25. And fortunately, Saturn's at 25.36, Jupiter's at 25.5. She'll get up to meet up with Jupiter first. It's very close, but at least we've got it. So we get her moving towards Jupiter, which is good. She's moving towards abundance and good things and expansion. Love that. And again, a really strong Jupiter. And she's moving away from the Lord of her sign, Venus, because the last aspect she would have made was back here in Aries, which would have been her aspect with Venus before she came into Taurus. So because Venus is behind her and Jupiter is in front of her with their angles that they are kind of like, if you imagine them shooting beams across like these aspect lines, Venus is shooting a beam over here. The moon is within that beam. Jupiter is shooting a beam into here, and the moon is within that beam. Therefore, the moon is protected by the loving arms of the benefics, and we call that benefic enclosure. Now, there is such a thing as malefic enclosure, and it's said to be a little bit like, the walls pressing in on someone. I don't know. I mean, okay. The only reason I say this is because I have malefic enclosure around my son, and I feel like, yeah, but you make the best of it. In this case, the best of it finds you. So we have another really good thing. Not only that, but we have the benefic enclosure. Venus, who rules the moon, is in her other domicile. So she's doing really great until later that same day when she pops over into Scorpio and then is in detriment. And we just send our thoughts and prayers, sorrows and prayers, I guess. But neither of the malefics are in their domicile. And neither of them, Saturn's looking at the moon, but the moon doesn't really care. It's a really soft aspect. It's not hurting the moon. And Mars can't even look at the moon. So we are not afflicted at all. And we are supported and we are exalted. And the person who runs the Airbnb we're staying at, that's really great, is also doing really great. It's a nice Airbnb. They gave us a lot of extra perks for showing up here. Like, it's so good. Thank you, AJ, for that reminder. So, good moon. And with that, this is the best moon to be manifesting with. Why do I say that? Because, normally I try to make sure I really keep us grounded and practical, but like Taurus is grounded and practical. The reason I'm inclined to keep us grounded and practical is because my sun's in Taurus. This is like almost on my sun. And so grounded and practical is what Taurus does. And with the planet there that really likes to do that, supported in all sorts of ways, you can be super grounded and practical and expect good things. Thank goodness, right? Like, whatever divinity you associate with and feel close to, thank them, because yes, we need this. We deserve this. It's in the middle of a pretty chaotic week. There are other things going on this week that it's like, seriously, like Mercury's going to go retrograde at the end of the week at this time. But on this day, nothing can get in the way of the fact that you get an exalted, supported full moon in Taurus. So use it and lean into it and enjoy it. Take next, what is it, the 5th? The 5th is a Wednesday. Next Wednesday, put it on your calendar. No one gets to me today. You can't take it from me today. It's a good day. And that can last into Thursday as well, because the moon will still be in Taurus over that next day and full. So yes, we love it. Yes. So what kind of stuff can you think about along the Taurian criteria and themes? So does anybody want to throw some keywords in the chat for things that you already associate with Taurus? No messing with me, yo. Exactly, AJ. So with this, Taurus is associated with Earth and is a fixed sign. And going along with those things, we know that fixed really echoes the Earth connotations of being reliable, steady, enduring, those kinds of things. Taurus is ruled by Venus. So we know that there's some elements of what Venus likes to do here. Comfy Taurus, like daily routine. I love that. That's awesome. Taurus is often associated with food. Gotta love that too. I do love me some food. Yep, Shauna, there it is. Shauna, you're a Taurus rising, yes? So you would know this very well. Taurus, Russ says, my brain just immediately offered, mess with the bull, get the horns. I recorded the skit for this week earlier this morning, and Kind of, yeah. Um, you are a Taurus moon. That's right. So with Taurus here, this is going to be your lunar return, Sean. I love that. Um, with Taurus, we have food. We have, support earthy things, daily routine, comfort shows up here, right? If we like put that into another word, comfy is a word that you used, AJ. Finances show up here too. Our material comforts, our material support, those things we surround ourselves with because we love it. Think about your reading nook, or think about like your favorite space in the house because it's got all the things you love that make you feel great. Think about like cozy gaming or cozy reading, those kinds of things. These are great things to do this day. And by doing them, you will be saying, I want more of this, please. Right? So the whole thing about manifesting is make sure that you create the space in your life to do the things that you want more of, and then do them. Show your life that it can happen and that there is room for it, and then it will come in more. That's it. And if you want a free practical manifesting guide, you can actually go to my website. It's the first thing on the website. You just plug in your email and you'll get it to download. And it's like this little workbook that a couple people have told me they really like. And I really appreciate that. It's my guide to how to actually manifest something for someone who needs like the really big steps, like how to do it, how to think about it, what's the actual concept here, kind of steps. Yeah, earthbound. Yep, yeah, for sure. Um, so that's the kind of stuff I'd be thinking about. Where do you want to feel more comfortable? Where do you want to feel more supported? Where do you want to feel more abundant? Like thinking about Taurus as the fertile fields, right? What do you want your harvest to be? I know Virgo is more of the harvest vibe, but this is a full moon in Taurus. So if Taurus is the fertile soil and the full moon is the culmination of something, what harvests are you bringing in right now? Light yourself a cozy candle that's like scented with your favorite smell. Do your favorite rituals that make you remember how abundant you are and how you deserve to feel supported. Remember that you deserve things instead of just feeling like this is a day to really crush the sensation of lack mentality. That's what you're going to release at this time. Yeah, I love these vibes too. AJ, thank you for that link. That's so helpful. Little Witch in the Wood, excellent cozy game. Fields of Mysteria is also good. Yeah, I remember the game that got me through most of the pandemic was Animal Crossing, that kind of stuff. The Legend of Zelda games, the newer ones, Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, those are really cozy. Even most Legend of Zelda games are pretty cozy in my opinion, until you get to some of those puzzles that are just infuriating. But that's what it is. AJ has a Jupiter candle. And oh, that's cool. I have one of those too. This one back here was a gift from a friend that they made during the Jupiter Cazimi in Pisces back in 2021. I have not lit it yet. I don't know why. I just haven't felt called to light it yet. So we'll have to see. Yes, all the Zelda for sure. Literally named my dog after that franchise. No regrets. So that's what we're looking at. What makes you feel comfortable? Do the things that make you feel comfortable. Eat your favorite foods. Bake something. By all means, make food. If you're feeling like it also, donate some food, right? Donate to a bake sale. Donate to a food drive. Donate the food that you make so that you can also share some of your abundance, which by the way, when you share abundance, it makes space for abundance. So that's why like donations and giving is also a really great thing. Yes, it's karma. The good that goes around comes around. It's because you made space for good things by giving good things, right? So that's another really excellent manifesting technique. If you have the means, don't like dry yourself up to do that. But if you have extra, feel free to share it. It makes space for more. Legends and Lattes is a really good one. And Bookshops and Bone Dust. Bone Dust is, yeah, that's the prequel. I haven't read the prequel because I'm one of the weirdos that didn't really like Legends and Lattes. It was fine, but they just spent so much time telling me how to develop a coffee shop when I had just watched my husband do that for years. I was like, I could use a little bit more. Oh, that's good to know. Yeah. So yeah, that's stuff I would recommend doing. And honestly, donation, literally it's called in astrological magic, we call it planetary charity. You do charity toward a planet that you would like to have a better relationship with. It's not charity as in handouts. It's charity as in I have enough and I would love to share it. It's a form of compassion. And in that you're asking, hey, can I have a stronger relationship here? And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing draining about that. So, yeah, I hope that if you have the means, feel free to go for it if it feels expansive and wonderful to you. And I hope that any abundance that you can fit in your life does find you. So that's our full moon exalted in Taurus. I'm really happy about it. I can't wait. Um, it's on a Wednesday, which is Mercury's day. And at this point, Mercury is the day is not a big deal. I'm just joking here, but Mercury is detriment in Sagittarius and stopping in the sky, getting ready to go retrograde. So if we pop over to Mercury here really quickly and you look at the event navigator here and you see direction changes, it's going to be November 9th that Mercury pops into retrograde. And so Mercury will be retrograde up here in Sagittarius and we'll pop back into Scorpio, stop and come back. So that's going to be November 9th through the 29th. Just letting you know now. But again, it's a cozy time of year. It's okay if some stuff, this one reminds me, for some reason, the image I get in my head is rolling dice. So it's sort of just like however the dice land, great. Like I'm just going to roll with that. But the reason I'm telling you the actual image I get is because sometimes the actual image is truer than the way I interpret it. So we'll leave it to that. D&D dice are a lot more fun. Yes, I like that. Mercury retrograde November. Yep. Do we want to play a small D&D game? I'm always down for a one shot. Role-playing games are awesome. Yeah, so that's what we're looking at next week. And that is your especially head start on that. I'm going to do an astrological overview video like I do for all the lunations for this. So that'll be up to, I'll give you an affirmation. I'll give you my perspectives on it, yada, yada. But I actually like this interpretation better because I get to do it with you guys and it's more organic and we come up with the ideas together. So this was really helpful. You have so many different systems. Yeah. Very cool. Hang on. I'm going to grab a drink really quick. Yay. Awesome. Yeah, so we have like a little over 10 minutes left. How's everybody doing? That was really fun. Thank you for launching me into some history, some book recommendations. We had some magic recommendations. Like this was the full-fledged Monday Magic mood boost that I love. So thank you all for being so interactive. Thank you, AJ, for facilitating the conversation so well in all the ways. Appreciate you all the time. Yeah, but we still have some time. So how do you guys want to spend it? What do we want to do? Do you need to get a rant out? I wish I did. I don't have a huge rant prepared. I'm always open to things that people would like me to rant about. But I don't have anything in my face right now that I can rant about. I think not even really shadow phase. I will tell you though that tomorrow I'm going to be filming a bunch of videos for a new course on astrology. It's going to be the basics of astrology, basically the astrology you need to get you by on social media. So that if you don't want to learn astrology, but you want to know enough to not feel like the social media astrology that you see is overwhelming and nonsensical, you can use this course, which will be just like, I think 5 or 6 videos tops, and they're probably going to be shorter because I'm not super long-winded when it comes to stuff like this. Then you'll be able to have that. And I'm going to have that ready. Hopefully, I would like to say by next week, but we'll see. And then I'll come up with a good time to launch it. Because I'm going to try to get at least a majority of the videos recorded tomorrow. But basically, I'm going to tell you the basic importance of each planet. I'm going to categorize them into how personal they are to you and how much you should pay attention to them given certain situations. Tell you how to know if what you see on social media actually even pertains to you or not. Tell you how to know when there is something that you should be like, oh, that's important. Or if someone's just fear mongering, all those kinds of things. Yeah. So is this folk magic? I have ongoing folk magic that I'm excited about. That's been working really, really well. But I also am doing a planetary talisman this week that's going to prepare me for my Time Lord next year. And you're like, Krista, geez, your birthday's not until May. I'm like, yeah, but Mars isn't going to be in Scorpio in May, and Mars is my Time Lord next year. And I found a garnet ring in Thailand, so I'm going to make the talisman now, because the grand trine with Mars and the Moon and Jupiter that's happening this week is almost a reflection of my own chart. And if I want to make sure Mars and I are friends for next year, because I've seen my solar return chart and I'm going to need all the help I can get, then I'm going to make that talisman now. So, like, for instance, this is my Venus ring. It's lapis lazuli. I got it in Egypt. I don't have to get it across the world. It's just that's where we end up in jewelry stores. I'm not really a jewelry store person here. And like, it's more affordable in those places. So I wear this every day because Venus and I are walking together this year. And then I've got my garnet ring that I will wear every day next year because Mars and I are hanging out. I have a little hand up there that has my topaz ring from last year because Mercury and I were hanging out. So I wore that every day. And I'm really fortunate that while Mars is in Scorpio, which is the sign that will be active for me next year, there's a decent election that I can work with him on. Now, the reason I'm not sharing this with everybody is Mars is a malefic. So it would be irresponsible to share that, because if you were like, oh, a talisman, I'm just going to make this, you would be right to be excited. And I would be wrong to be like, hey, here, it's a Mars talisman, go make it. Because Mars can be pretty crappy if he's not really well situated in your chart, or if you don't have a good reason to be working with him. And I don't know you personally, so I can't make that call on a broad social media scale. Now, if we were working one-on-one and I was looking at your chart and I knew what you were trying to do, I would absolutely do that. My student study tier, the Sorcerer's Apprentice tier, that's the kind of stuff that they have access to. And if you have a consultation with me, you can ask for it in there too. And I would give you anything I've got coming up. However, that reminds me, I did add 2 new reading offerings to my website. So if you go to my website and under the drop-down menu of schedule a reading, you find readings and more, you will see there are now 3 options there. There's the 30-minute astrological overview, and now there's a 60-minute version where we can go month by month. So the astrological overview is going to be the whole year, and we might get specific depending on what you tell me in your intake form. If I can find something specific, I will. But in the 60-minute, we'll go through month by month and talk about that. So if you're like, I really need to know what's going on, go for the 60-minute one because it'll give us plenty of time to strategize. There's also a 30-minute just intuitive psychic mediumship stuff. So if you're like, I don't really need the astrology, I just need to talk to my guides or a loved one or get some intuitive insight, book that one and we'll have the time for the conversation. So those are available now. And I'm pretty excited about them. Eventually, I might come up with like a, request an astrological election option. But I'll see how that goes. So that way, if someone wants an astrological election for something, they can say, hey, here's what I'm going for. When should I do it? And I will just do the stuff behind the scenes and be like, here's your time. Here's what to do. If that's something you'd be interested in, let me know. I can always set that up. Yeah. Makes it better. And so true. The jewelry here is expensive. Yeah. Well, and I just don't know, like when you're there, they're like, oh, we got it here. Like this garnet came from Thailand. This lapis came from Egypt. Cool. I know where it comes from. That makes me feel better. Here, I have no idea. So I don't mess with it. AJ, for situational awareness, click the drop-down menu for the different options, broken down 30 minutes, 1 hour, and 2 hour. I do not think I offer a 2-hour version. There's 2 30-minute things. One's astrology, one's astrology and intuitive. Like I can't keep my intuition out of stuff, but I will tell you when one thing is just astrology and another thing is my intuition coming in. And then the astrology one is also, all the astrology stuff is going to include intuition, but if you don't need astrology, you don't have to book it. And it's a little bit cheaper. Yeah. Stricken I rewrites. Yeah. I can hear the way you would say that, AJ. AJ, for anybody who's wondering, is really talented in different voices and accents and things. And I find it incredibly entertaining and impressive. Keep your eye out for AJ coming up eventually in video games and stop motion, was it? Animation? Because that's going to be really cool. So you can also follow AJ to see how they progress in that, because I'm excited to see how they do and what happens for them next. Yeah, cool. So yeah, while I'm on the the tangent of things that you can do that might be fun. Motion capture. Thank you. Just like Avatar. Yes. Um, you can also, if you want, travel with us. And if you're really into folk magic, I'm going to tell you right now, Germany next year, there are still a couple early bird spots on this where you can get a discount on it and everything. That is where I would go if you could choose next year of the places to go. I would go to Germany because I'm going to be so obnoxious with the folk magic there. It's going to be great. Yeah. AJ, would you mind sharing your handle so people can follow you? That would be awesome. And if you do mind, don't worry about it. It's fine. Sorry to throw you out there if you didn't want that. But yeah, Germany still has some early bird places on it. There's a lot of stuff that Emily and I are working on together. There's a lot of stuff I'm working on. I get a lot of energy at this time of year, so I try to really push it so I can be like, hey, use the energy. And then when it like runs completely dry on me, sans like February, I'll have stuff done that I can take the momentum for and go with it. There you go. Follow AJ at Amber J. Breland on Instagram, and you won't be disappointed. Cool. Yeah. So thank you guys so much for this conversation. It's been really, really fun. Em and I will be recording another episode of Alchemist Inkwell today. You will be receiving a new episode of Alchemist Inkwell today. This is our bookend and Halloween / Samhain / Dia de los Muertos situation. We decided to do a cozy episode to honor the time of year. And then next week, which we will be recording today, we will do our Sakyant tattoo episode. So you'll get to hear about that. I'm very excited to record that because I got a tattoo in Thailand and the story is phenomenal. And I'm still blown away about it. And every time I get to see my tattoo in the mirror, I'm just like, dang, that happened. Yay. So that's exciting too. And then of course on Friday, we'll do a live there as well. We're trying to figure out like where we're most useful right now. So if you have thoughts on like, I love this and I think what you're already doing is great, but if you did it here, it might be more effective, stuff like that. I'm open to some of those ideas because we're willing to like do the stuff. We just don't know that we're doing it in the right places. So we'll figure that out. Tattoo stories from the travelers sound cool. Yeah. I've been super excited. Social media stuff. Well, okay. So Em and I are thinking like we might go over to Twitch and do some stuff on there and do like psychics react to certain things like, ghost adventures and stuff. But we'll see. Yeah. Okay, cool. Love hearing that. Thank you. Yeah. I'm trying to think of like, is there like a cozy game Em and I could play that would be on brand and that you guys would be interested in? I watch mostly gamers on Twitch, so that's like where my head is at. But if you guys are interested in that, I will pitch it to Em because God knows I'm looking for excuses to play more video games. That would be fun. And if we focus on games that have magical elements to it, we can tell you what's accurate, what we like about it, how high vibe the story is. Yeah. Yeah, mostly AJ, what we're trying to do is help people who don't know that we exist find us. So we want it to be as open as possible at this point. We're just trying to make sure we're helpful and useful in these times. So keep an eye out. Also, we have a new program brewing, and we're getting ready to launch that too. It should be pretty great. I'm really excited about it. Yeah. So we've been brainstorming it. We were pulling cards about it, just trying to make sure that we're not just, throwing spaghetti at the wall, but we're actually doing something useful. So yeah, but that's the stuff that we're up to. We're traveling, trying to come up with some ways to do a little bit more local travel for people. Yeah, going live on Twitch is best fit and pick a known game to be easy for search engines. That's a good point. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. That is something I will bring up because it's been at the back of my head and I think it'd be really fun too. So, because I really enjoy spending time with Em just in general. And I think us doing stuff and having thoughts about it is some of the stuff that I enjoy a lot. Multiplayer Stardew Valley. Oh, that's an interesting one. Yeah, okay, I'm not that into Stardew Valley. I hate things that time me. And so because Stardew Valley is like, "Oh, the day's over and you can't do this anymore." I'm like, "Well, then how is this my imaginary world because you just limited me." um, but yeah, something like that. We both really like cozy games. I know M is really into what was it? Disney magical something. Um, yeah, but we can find stuff like that and see what else is coming up and get into that. And I think it'd be really fun. Uh, see you rant at a game. Oh my god! If you want to see me rant, video games are the place for it. My poor husband. We have 1 minute left, but I'm going to tell you, Dreamlight Valley. Thank you, Russ. Yeah, let me know which games you would watch us play and I will figure out if they are relevant to our brand. And I will do that, you guys. I will do that. Heck, if I do that on my own, I'll do that. But I'd love to bring M into it too. But yeah, please let me know in the comments of this video. You can DM me that kind of stuff. I'm really enthusiastic about this. I think it'd be really fun. So what games would you like to see M and I play that you think psychics and magicians reacting to would be even more fun and add to it even more? Please let us know. But yeah, so Dan and I, when we first got together, we played Portal 2 and we played it together. But then he had me play it, the campaign, all by myself, and he watched. And I love that. I love watching him play certain games. I love that he like watches me play games. Like to me, that is a form of affection that is just next level. And Portal 2 is fantastic. I could never pronounce Wheatley's name, so I called him Bleep Bleep, and Dan loved that. But there was this one room where I could not figure out the puzzles. And I was like, Dan, I really need you to help me through this one. And he said, okay, you've entered a room. And I looked at him and I was like, you think? And that's when I knew that he would love me unconditionally no matter what, because I raged at this game and he thought it was funny. And he would set me up. There was this one motorcycling game. We had to date because we were long distance for a while. We had to date over like Xbox games. And so there was this game called Trials where you were motorcycles on a different track. And he would always set me up for this one trail that I could never finish just to make me rage at it. And honestly, it helped me because, some of us who are autistic, we know that when we have like meltdowns, it's actually easier if someone makes it a funny thing. It helps diffuse that a lot. So I would have the space to rage, but also he's laughing. So I don't have the embarrassment and I would get through it a lot faster. And it was like this really great technique. So extra points to Dan on that one. And with that, I will go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate you all. Please feel free to let me know what games you would like to watch Em and I play because we would love to do that. Maybe some days we'll play games. Some days we'll watch like Ghost Whisperer. Boy, do I have thoughts on Ghost Whisperer. And let us know what shows you'd like to see us react to or anything like that. If you're someone who's on Twitch, let us know the tips that you would like so that we can join you there and be in another place where you already are, because that's the point. It's not about us. It's about all of us having fun where you are already at, so it's less effort for you. Literally, that's the point. So let us know. I think it'll be super, super fun. We'd have a really good time with it. So thank you guys. I hope you have a really great week. Remember, the full moon's not this week. It's next Wednesday, but you've got tons of time to figure out what you want to do. And I will be here posting, doing all the stuff. Let me know how I can be helpful. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. I'll see you again soon.